Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. I realize this has been like a really long time since I uploaded a video in YouTube, but I have been super busy with my studies. I have my final professional exams going on and I have been super busy with my studies since then. But I realized that I did make a promise to you guys to make a video about the professional exchange that I went to in Germany while still studying MBBS in Bangladesh as a med student here. So without any further ado, let's get into the video answering all the questions that you guys have regarding the professional exchange, like how to apply, the documents required, the cost breakdown, and the its and bits of the application procedure. So without any further ado, let's get right into this video. So first things first, Alhamdulillah, I'm super grateful for this opportunity because I got to live so many dreams that I had. Alhamdulillah, I got to visit Paris while still being in my early 20s. This was definitely a dream come true. I went to see so many places in Germany, and Alhamdulillah, I got to visit 5 countries in the 1 month that I went to in Europe for the exchange program. This is the opportunity of a lifetime for me and one of the most meaningful experiences I've had while studying in med school. So I really want this opportunity for you guys as well, which is why I'm making this video. So let's get into how I applied to this program. So what I did was, I am a member of Bangladesh Student Society, which is BMSs, which is literally like an organization, which is a branch of IFMSA, International Federation of Medical Students Association. What they do is they facilitate different exchange programs throughout the world once a year in different countries. For example, while I was applying, we had the opportunity to go to either Germany, Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia, etc. So there were like 5 countries that you could choose from. I initially submitted the form to go to Malaysia, but after I sat for the interview, Alhamdulillah, I was selected for Germany instead. I really did not see that coming, but Alhamdulillah for that. So what you need to do is, for one, you need to prepare like a CV for yourself, which is all the achievements you have, all the skills you have, all the information that you basically need, like a proper CV. That's the first step. And secondly, they give out forms in their website, in their Facebook pages once a year. You have to look out for those. So second, I filled out the form that they gave, which required me to submit my CV and why I wanted to do this, which country I wanted to go, all of those. So I filled out that form, which was like step 2, and then I had to sit for an interview, which is step 3. So in the interview, what they do is they check whether you have all the capabilities to go to that exchange program, whether you're enthusiastic enough, and whether your criteria fit with the country that you want to go to. So I had to sit for that interview. I initially sat for it for Malaysia, but I did go to Korea before. So considering all of those facts, Alhamdulillah, I was selected for Germany instead. But you can apply to any country that you want to from the 5 to 6 countries options that you are given in that specific year. So after that, what they do is they give you like a few months to prepare all your documents that you require. And here comes the worst part. Getting selected is hard, I know, but so much worse is filling out the visa application, because our passport is really weak. So it was a huge hassle for me, the passport thing. I know that getting in can be hard, but I think the visa procedure is just way worse. So we had to go for the visa procedure for a few months, and after that we got this official letter from IFMSA, like an invitation letter to go to which country and you're going, the university, which department, all those details in that invitation letter. So I went to UKSH of Lübeck of Germany, and it was all written in my invitation letter, and I would have to go there for a month, which was from 1st November 2025 to around 30 November 2025, and that was the entire month that I stayed there. And I had my clinical days 5 days a week, from like 8 a.m. to around 4 p.m. So this was like the timeline that I had to go through in my exchange program in the clinical university, with all the ward hospital facilities there to learn and grow as a med student as well. Now let's talk about the facilities that I got and the essentially the cost breakdown while my stay in Germany. So since I was living there for an entire month, the living expenses were being completely taken care of by the organization IFMSA. So I did not have any headache regarding the living expenses, which was free of cost. Then secondly, since I was there during my lunch hour in the hospital, so my lunch expenses were also being taken care of by the university organization there. So I had my lunch expenses free of cost as well. And thirdly, I got pocket money for around 200 euros for my stay in Germany for a month. So that was honestly great, since I could use that money for expenses other than the lunch hour and all of those, my dinner and like just going around. So that was great. These were like the main three facilities that I got there. And also I got to have so much more clinical experience there, which I could not have if I was staying in Bangladesh for that month. Now let's talk about the parts where I did have to pay. So I had to book my own tickets. Those were not sponsored by the organization, so I had to book my flight tickets. Those were around 2 lakhs if I remember correctly, but the cost would have been a little bit less if I booked the tickets on time, but I could not, since I really got my visa in like 2 to 3 days before my clinical rounds were starting in Germany. So I booked the ticket last minute, so which is why my flight tickets were a little bit expensive. And all the other expenses that you have are not really related to the exchange program. For example, the things that I bought, the personal expenses, and all the other countries that I visited, those were like personal expenses. For example, alhamdulillah, I got to visit 5 different countries: Germany, of course, and then France, then Czech Republic, Austria, Netherlands, these 5 countries, and all the expenses were my personal expenses, not related to the exchange program at all. But here's the catch: you are going to Europe, and all the neighboring countries are literally like a bus or train ride away. So I could not miss that opportunity at all. So what I did was, instead of booking flight tickets to those countries in the weekends, what I did was I booked bus tickets, like overnight tickets, which would get me to different countries overnight, just a bus ride away. So what I did was, in that way, I cut a lot of cost. For example, I went to Paris by bus, and that cost me around 25,000. And then I went to Netherlands, that was around 18 to 20,000 as well, the bus ticket. And then I went to Czech Republic and Austria in the same weekend, which cost me around 25 to 30,000. These are like the travel tickets, and the cost is much less than I would require if I booked a flight ticket. So yeah, in like this very minimal cost, I got to see 5 different countries, alhamdulillah. And I had like a few expenses obviously when I visited those countries, but it was okay. It was like, alhamdulillah, opportunity of a lifetime, and I'm forever grateful to my parents for helping me explore all those countries and giving me that opportunity. But that's a completely optional thing for you to do in the exchange program, and those are not related to the exchange program at all. So my tip, if you are going for the exchange program, is being mindful of the costs and try to have like ideas regarding different transport systems and how to like cut your costs. Because by bus, I obviously needed more time, and I did get like tired obviously, because it was not as easy as the flight experience, but that's okay. I cut a lot of cost by that way, so I opted for bus tickets for cutting out costs, and so that I could explore as much as possible in like minimal costs required. And also I cooked my own food there, so I did not really have dinner expenses that much as I would expect. I had a kitchen there in the student apartment, so I could like cook my own food, and the costs would be a little bit less. So that was great. And the student department were facilitated in every way that you would want to in your home. There was kitchen, bathroom facilities, and the room was spacious and great. I had a great view of German cities and everything. So it was in a whole great. The entire cost was a lot less than I expected. And if you are being careful and mindful about your expenses, you can have a more budget friendly student experience in your exchange program as well. That's how the cost breakdown actually went. I hope it was helpful and it answered all your questions regarding the costs. Now let's talk about the clinical experience that I gathered while my stay in Germany. So what happens when we are studying in Bangladesh is during MBBS we don't really see that much of like high-tech med school experience with all the high-tech surgeries going on and whatnot. But I got that opportunity to see that in Germany, which was amazing because I had to interact with patient. I was doing the clinical rounds with the renowned doctors there. I could see so many advanced surgeries going on every day, and I also got to scrub in and assist in different surgeries. For example, my first assist in the surgery was in a coronary artery bypass surgery, so which was great. And I never really expected that I could assist in a surgery while still being in my med school. That was great. Another thing is in Bangladesh here, we are not really expected to do a lot of clinical things. For example, in Germany, in every morning, I had to prick blood from all the patients in the round during that time in my clinical stay there to really gather experience how to interact with patients and prick blood from them for IV injections and whatnot. But in Bangladesh, if you're a med student, you know that you don't really have to do any of those. And secondly, you are not really given the opportunity to scrub in and assist the surgeons for the surgery in Bangladesh. But in there I got to have that opportunity as well. I got to literally roam around the hospital every day, seeing all these very high-tech surgeries going on, including robotic surgery, stem cell transplantation, to like surgeries that I really just saw in Grey's Anatomy and whatnot. I could not believe my eyes that since I was just a med student, I could get opportunities like this as well. And so this was like a really interactive clinical experience. And the one thing that you might be worried about is the language barrier, because obviously in Germany people speak in German, but since I didn't know anything regarding German, this would be a problem for me. But newsflash, it was not a problem for me, alhamdulillah, at all, because all the doctors, the students there knew how to speak in English fluently. Sometimes the patients did not really know that much of English, but that was not a problem. I just needed to like introduce myself and give all the take my permission from them to like prick blood from them or whatever that was required, and they did know the basic English, so that was not a problem after all. So in a whole, the language barrier was not a problem for me, alhamdulillah. So, and yes, you need to show that you are sort of like fluent in English if you want to apply for this opportunity when you are applying in the form. So this is like a side note for you guys. So yeah, language barrier was alhamdulillah not a problem for me. The next thing that I want to share is that the certificate that you are being given after completing that clinical experience for a month is you get a certificate from WFME certified, which is World Federation of Medical Education. So that certificate is gonna go a long way for your medical career, because if you want to apply to like different countries for further education after completing your MBBS, this certificate, alhamdulillah, inshallah, will benefit me a lot when I apply for in the long run. So I was keeping that in my mind. So we needed like around 90% attendance to get that certificate, and after that it is certified by WFMA. Then IFMSA, and you get this very beautiful certificate that I am alhamdulillah so proud of. And after that, you can literally use the certificate for your more opportunities in the long run. So, and the clinical experiences that you gather in during that time will be with you everywhere you go, and all those experiences are still helping me in my final year as well. So in the hospital, as a med student, you're gathering so much experiences with all the renowned teachers and their classes, and the way they discuss med school problems and the cases, the hospital cases, it's mind boggling. You would be so shocked. Like in around at 7 a.m. we always had this seminar going on where we discussed all the cases in the hospital we had in that department. For example, I was placed in cardiovascular surgery department. So at 7 a.m. all the professors, the students, we used to discuss the cases that we had in the hospital. We used to talk about how we could treat these patients properly and what can be the treatment modalities that can be suited for that patient specifically. All the patients were being dealt, all their cases were being dealt by group discussions with all the professors, the students, and if we had any questions we could ask them. It was so interactive and so much more knowledgeable than we have in our clinical rounds in Bangladesh. I absolutely loved it. And another thing is the teachers, the professors, they really encourage you to assist in different surgeries so that you can learn firsthand. This was so meaningful for me. For example, when I was going for the cardiovascular surgery in my department, I was so scared because I've never assisted before, and I was scared that I would screw up and the professors would be so disappointed and I would be representing my country in a wrong way and whatnot. I was so nervous, so scared. But the teachers, they were so understanding about this, and they were encouraging me because I have never held a beating heart in my hand. But when I was in that assist for the surgery, I could hold the beating heart, and it was such a different experience than I had in my med school in Bangladesh, obviously. And the surgery was so intricate, and it was really nerve-wracking, but amazing. Honestly, in one word, it was amazing. So that was one of the perks that I had in that clinical experience. I could scrub in and learn so many new things and gather so many new experiences. It was amazing. Another thing is like the hospitals. They are so clean, well maintained. You would not believe. For example, in our hospitals, it's so overcrowded, but in there, everything is like documented, so much more well maintained than in our country. I could learn their systems and the way they deal with patients. It's just honestly breathtaking. And you would not believe how much behind we are in healthcare in our country, like compared to them, if you have not seen it by your own eyes. Now let's talk about the experiences that I had outside of the hospital premises, which is I genuinely thought that Germans would be so rude because that's what internet wanted me to believe from all the reels and whatnot. But my experiences was completely the opposite. Alhamdulillah, all the Germans that I met there were so friendly, so helpful. Anything that I required help from, they were there. Like the organization itself was very helpful regarding all the questions I had. So it was in a whole not a problem for me in respect to communicating with the Germans or like any confusions that I had. And obviously the transport system there is really good, so I could travel to different places whenever I wanted to. For example, after coming from like my hospital round, I used to go to this beach in Travemund by bus and literally just travel there, go experience the beach and like have a peaceful reset of my day. So that was great. And in the weekdays, I could also go to Hamburg if I wanted to and explore other places in Lübeck. Hamburg was like a bus ride away. I went there around 3 to 4 times, which was great. And in weekdays, since I got like around 4 4 weekends. So I went to 4 different countries in those 4 weekends. The last weekend, I just packed my bags and also like packed different gifts from my friends and family here. So and I also roamed around the different malls, the historic places. For example, there was this cathedral that I really wanted to see from a long time, which was the Cologne Cathedral in Germany, which took around 632 years to build. So it like when I was like a teenager, I saw that in a video like really long time ago, and that cathedral was really magnificent in terms of architecture, obviously, because it took years to build, centuries to build, honestly, and it was like a World Heritage Site, and like it got demolished multiple times during the World War and whatnot. So this was like in my bucket list for a long time, but I never really expected that I could go there one day. But honestly, I could visit so many places like this. I went to Cologne Cathedral and the view was amazing. It was like almost like a rainy day, and in a whole those were the experiences that I thought even if I had those experiences, I would have that in later in life while I was more older and whatnot. But in my early 20s, living in my own, visiting those places was like this big girl energy that I was craving, and I loved it, honestly. Also, I in the first weekend I went to Netherlands to go to Amsterdam, and I made this like checklist. These are the places that I want to go to, and I went to all of those. So alhamdulillah, that was great. In France, I went to Paris, and I stayed there for 2 whole days because I could not get enough of the city, and that was amazing. Even though Paris was a little bit more disappointing than I expected it to be, but still it was a new experience, so that was great. And then last we went to Czech Republic to go to Prague, and it was probably one of my favorite cities to go to. It was amazing. Lastly, I went to Austria, which, how do I even explain this? You have seen Frozen in your childhood, right? That city, Arendelle, was actually inspired by Hallstatt in Austria, and I could not believe how magnificent and fascinating that city was. There were Alps everywhere. They share like around like a border with Switzerland, if I'm not wrong. So the Alps were there, and it was in a whole so pretty, and I could not believe my eyes. And there were like snowy mountains everywhere. The road there was so pretty. It was all snow covered, and that was the first time I experienced proper snow in Europe. So that was great. And the day I was coming back, it was snowing in Germany as well. So I got to experience full-blown snow for the first time in my life. So it was great for me, such a new experience. And while I was coming back, it was already around Christmas in Germany. So there was Christmas decorations everywhere. So it was a new experience, like seeing all the Christmas markets, the places being all decorated. In a whole, I got to experience so much of Germany there during a 1 month stay. 1 month is a really long time if you want to experience like specific cities and places in Germany. I got to see Frankfurt, Berlin, Cologne, then Hamburg, and so many other cities that I traveled to while commuting to different countries in the weekends. In a whole, I absolutely loved it. I am so grateful, alhamdulillah, that I got to apply to this program and actually be there in my early 20s. Alhamdulillah for that. So what I want to say is, if you are looking for experiences like this that can help you grow both academically and personally, you should definitely apply for such programs. For example, obviously, alhamdulillah, I got a great certificate out of this entire program, which can help me with my future studies, inshallah. And not only that, I got to grow as a person and like deal with different problems on my own while I'm completely separated from my family and close ones. I got to experience different cities on my own, deal with different problems that life was throwing me on my own, like explore different cities, know about their transport system, their facilities, all on my own. This is really great for your own personal development, definitely, and also for your academic development. So if you have any more questions, feel free to comment them down in this video. I will try to answer them as much as possible, but this might be delayed since I have my exams going on, but I will definitely try. And if you are new to this channel, I hope you consider subscribing to my channel, and let's see you in another video. Good luck and bye bye.